So in my last few Division videos, I used some survival footage for those videos. And for those of you who may be wondering, I actually played that a few days ago. I think it was Sunday. I went in there because I wanted some survival footage. And so I went and queued for survival and I got in and I was playing and just saying, I'll probably play for a few minutes. I'm not going to take it seriously. And I ended up extracting. That's how a game mode can pull you in so much with its intensity and its core design and its premise. And to be very frank, I'm quite surprised that something like this was done by the same studio that has been strong-headed to give a lot of really cool stuff in the Division 2. Now, yes, a lot of people have, mentioned to me that, hey, they did say that episode 1 was going to, focus on, a lot of things like specializations and some missions, and survival might be coming out in season 2 or episode 3 or whatever it is, the next one when we go to New York. Fine, I agree. But I wanted to put out some things there. And for those of you who, were commenting on the video saying, man, what is this snow? It looks so cool. Well, this is survival. This is the survival mode of the Division 1, where you had to actually find resources. You were left with a sidearm and you had to loot resources, loot clothing items to stay warm, loot, medicine to keep yourself alive, and also loot, resources that you could use like, soda, water, all these things. And they were scarce in the open world. Now, they weren't really that scarce after a while. I mean, when you start playing, you're like, nah, they weren't. You could go to a loot cave and find a whole bunch of stuff. But you also had to find crafting materials to craft yourself a virus filter or an advanced virus filter, make your way in the dark zone. You could go take out landmarks in the dark zone, but you were undergeared, underpowered, and you would have to go take out these elite strongholds in the dark zone. Oh my gosh, it is the best mode that the Division has released. In fact, many people say in any game they've not played anything like it in terms of the intensity that is behind survival. And so I agree. Now, before they even bring out survival in season 3 or episode 3, I don't know when they're bringing it out, I wanted to put a few things here in place. Now, survival is a very unique mode. They were able to introduce a new faction. I think they can maybe use hunters to do so because they're hunters in Washington, D.C. This would probably give us a way to be able to interact with them a lot more other than just mask farming. Another thing, too, that they could do, and I think a very important one, is something that a lot of people who played survival way into the life of the game and are still playing survival will tell you, is in order to allow for replayability, they need to do one more thing, which is they need to randomize where the loot locations are within the map. And the randomization doesn't need to be extreme. It just needs to be very little. I mean, if you walk into an apartment, you expect to loot something. So those could be randomized as well. And that will allow for people to, to keep their eyes open and to be able to go loot things and, be willing to search around the map, even with more urgency. And it won't be a point where people are trying to speed run it based on the fact that they've been able to memorize locations in order to go extract. That is that's I think the core aspect that a lot of people were asking for, because if you know the routes, a friend of mine that, Afflicted Gamer used to do Survival Sunday almost every Sunday, if not every Sunday, on the Division 1, and he would run with a lot of people and they just had fun, but they knew the route. He knew the routes. He knew almost the entire map and knew what to loot, where to loot, how to loot it. And, even still, it was still fun, but it would have been really nice if those loot caches or places that had resources were randomized. So I hope that at some point they bring the randomized aspect of it and put it in the game on release. I mean, that just on the very first day, it needs to be that way, where once you do your first run, it's going to be, slightly different from your second run, even if you end up in the same place. Or they could change the entire premise, because now survival in the Division 1 did have a premise that was tied into the lore. There was an antiviral in the dark zone that you guys were trying to go retrieve, but then you guys had, you were in a blizzard and, everything went to crap and you had to still find your way and still complete the mission and find a way to be extracted from the dark zone. Now, they could use another premise to do it in a Division 2, perhaps maybe some parts of the open world. It may have to be the dark zone, may not have to be the dark zone. They'll have to be very creative as to how they do it, which I would be happy to see how they put it together. But for those of you who don't know, this mode was actually brought out in a time where the game was in need of some really good content. It brought a fresh life into the Division 1. It brought a lot of hype. It brought a lot of goodwill. A lot of people played survival. Some people said they were bored with it. They played the PvP, and this was one of the times they actually put a PvP and a PvE mode, which brings me to the second highlight of survival, which is it created a competitive environment either way you wanted to see it. Because in the PvP mode, you could either just go and take down somebody and you could get their gear and run away and, advance yourself and be able to craft better items or maybe get better, mods for your weapons. And then in the case of the PvE, you could loot everything and destroy it. And that way nobody else can, reach the dark zone. If you wanted to be a jerk and do that, people were doing that kind of stuff. But then mostly, after a while, people are like, yeah, if I see something that I don't need, I'll leave it. But then there was that competition as well. It's just like, I think in Destiny, the Gambit. So some guys were able to take me into the Gambit in Destiny, which is a PvE VP style competitive mode. I mean, you actually have to take out your opponents physically, but in the case of the Division 2, all you just do is just compete for resources, and you can inadvertently take out your opponent if they cannot find resources. So when survival comes to the Division 2, if it comes to Division 2, two things that need to be looked at are replayability and not making it monotonous, and adding an element of competition, even though they may separate PvP and PvE. I hope they separate PvP and PvE from it. That way everybody can play what the mode that they want. Sometimes it's very terrible to lock things down to one specific way of doing it. And so I think this will probably help the mode to thrive. But we're looking forward to announcements, hoping that they announce something soon or we get wind of something. And, I want you guys to comment in the comment section. If you have not played Survival in a Division 1, I think it'll be worth your time. In fact, if you've not played the Division 1, I think it'll be worth your time. You're going to see where the Division 2 came from. It will provide a lot of context for a lot of things, and you will enjoy the game. There are people still playing, which is very surprising. There were people in the survival with me. There were people in the, social area as well, which is crazy. It makes me want to go back there and now have it installed again. So I'll probably get back in there into Division 1 and play some missions and just kind of show you guys a few things for those of you who haven't played anyways. And so that's all I have for today. Thank you very much for your time and audience. I appreciate you guys engaging the videos. Leave comments. Let me know what you guys think. And for those of you who are subbed, this is one of those things. If you will please hit the notification bell. Apparently that helps everybody, helps you know if I put out a video. And if I there are days I'm going to put out a whole bunch of videos. If you get tired, feel free. It's your subscription, so you have the right to to click the notification bell off or on. But if you're willing to do that, that'll be really nice and that will be helpful for me. Anyways, that's it, and I guess I'll see you in the next video. Peace.